7 a.m. We've met Joel along Mombasa Road. He's preparing his vehicle, he's fueling his vehicle before we depart for Gaborone in Botswana. Joel is carrying curios, sandals, shoes, and beauty products for his clients in Gaborone. As he drives off through Mombasa Road, Mlolongo, Kitengela, the next important stop is the Kenya-Namanga border. Cattle crossing the road is normal on this highway. Then the Namanga border signpost invites us. 2 hours after departing Nairobi. A citizen from the East Africa Community member countries except South Sudan passing through Tanzania to another country is required to have a valid passport and is issued with a 1-week free transit visa, but a foreigner is charged between $20 to $30 depending on the country they come from.
It has taken like 2.5 hours to clear the car, the papers for the car here and for the goods. The customs, first you show the blue book, the log book for the car and for the trailer. Again the passport, the copies, the passport, the driving license. Yeah, for them to process for the car. Then for the goods, you just use the agent to clear.
For me, this is real adventure, real daring abroad. I've never been on a road trip this long. 5 days and over 4,000 kilometers between Nairobi and Gaborone in Botswana. So let's experience this together. Joel, I think tunaweza enda sasa. This is Arusha, 1.5 hours since we crossed the Kenya-Tanzania border. Up to this point, we've not had lunch. Joel has to maintain a speed limit of 50 kilometers per hour for the better part of the journey, as per the traffic rules here. We eventually take a break for some meal. Lunch comes supper at a place called Babati before we reach Dodoma. The sunset finds us here. Then we drive through the darkness as we approach Dodoma, where we stop for the night. We begin day 2 in Dodoma. Joel tells us that such road trips come with challenges, and there are spots where he would not dare drive at night.
Ilikuwa kule Zambia, like it was last year. Is it last year? This year January. Walipanda huko juu kwa trailer waizi. Huko barabara ni mbaya, wakapanda huko juu kwa trailer. Wakakata, waliiba vitu za watu. Waliiba vitu nyingi sana. Mimi sikujua, hata mahali nilienda kupaa kulala. Naenda kutafuta security anionyesha mahali napaa kuangalia, naona hema imetokana yote. Kwenda kuangalia wameiba vitu karibu nusu.
Hapa ni wapi?
Hapa ni Mtera.
Mtera.
Tunaenda Ilinga.
This is what you go through.
Yeah. Huku ni Ilinga sasa. Break kidogo tu Tushapata chakula, tukunywe maji, tuangalie gari kidogo, kisha tuelekee kwenda boda. Kwenye tunaenda kulala ni 450 kilometers.
Still on day 2 of our road trip, we started our journey in Dodoma at 5:30 a.m. It's now 5:30 p.m. Those are 12 hours. We are now at a place called Chimala. This is 200 kilometers from the Tanzania-Zambia border. Remember, we began our journey on Saturday morning in Nairobi, and we've so far covered about 1,400 kilometers. After a night rest in Tunduma at the Tanzania-Zambia border, we begin the third leg of our journey by crossing the border. Yes, this is Tanzania-Zambia border. Joel, you are saying we are 1 hour behind now. Now it's 1 hour difference. In Tanzania, it's 8:30. In Zambia, it is 7:30. So we are now going to clear at the border, and then we'll proceed towards the Zambian side. After being cleared, our journey continues. After a few kilometers, we begin driving on the rough stretch of about 200 kilometers. At some point, we meet Kenyan truck drivers. Unaelekea wapi?
Mimi nimetokea Nairobi nikaenda mpaka Lusaka. Sasa ndio narudi sasa hivi. Okay. Boda Zambia ina Tunduma na Konde. Boda ni moja, Tunduma na Konde. Ni rahisi tu, lakini ucheleweshwaji ni wingi wa magari. Magari ni mengi sana yanaokuja na kurudi.
Matava. Matava is Matava. Matava is maize. Okay. So I'll take 2. Yes. 2 are enough, I think. Fast forward now, and by day 4, we are in Mkushi, 860 kilometers to the border between Zambia and Botswana. This phase of our journey will see us pass through Kapirimposhi and Lusaka before we take another night break in Livingstone. Now, this is a landmark junction in Zambia. The town is called Kapirimposhi. On my left is the road towards DRC all the way to Lubumbashi, and it's about 300 kilometers towards the border. On my right is the road towards Botswana. So far from Nairobi, when we began the journey, we've covered over 2,500 kilometers. From Livingstone on day 5, we begin the last leg of our road trip. This is Kazungula, the border between Zambia and Botswana. So our man Joel is already on the ferry. He'll be crossing towards the Botswana side on that ferry. We will be joining him in a moment, but in the meantime, I'm joined by a local here. What's your name?
My name is Leo Mavuku.
Leo Mavuku.
You are welcome to Zambia.
Thank you.
Kazungura town.
Kazungura town.
Yes.
This is the border.
This is the border between Zambia and Botswana. on the other side there where you will be going.
Yes.
You'll be entering into Botswana.
Yes.
After crossing the Zambezi River, here the Zambezi River, it's shared between on our side here it is just Zambia. The other side there is Zimbabwe on our.
So that is Zimbabwe.
Yes, on our left.
Yes.
On the middle here there is Botswana.
This is
On the
Botswana.
right, yes.
Yeah.
On the right there it's Namibia.
Immigration requirements here are similar to those at the previous border points and mark you a yellow fever vaccination certificate, commonly known as a yellow fever card, is a must at all those border posts in this region all the way from Namanga border. At this point, as we enter Botswana, Joel has to pay for duty to the customs department. In Botswana, unleaded fuel is much cheaper, costing the equivalent of 86 Kenyan shillings per litre as compared to 117 shillings in both Tanzania and Kenya. At some point, I take over from Joel. We are on the highway that goes all the way to Johannesburg in South Africa. Again, fast forward and we arrive in Gaborone late in the night, 5 days later. The following day, Joel begins to deliver the goods he had carried.
Here is the stock.
This is the place, eh?
Yeah, to drive from Kenya to Botswana on fuel alone I can use 70,000. Now for an organized group, I can charge 250,000 Kenya shillings one way, yeah.
And that's our daring road trip with Joel Wachira. Till next time, bye-bye from Gaborone. She has exported African cuisine to Seattle City in Washington State that is located northwest of the United States of America. That is Jane Kagira, who has dared the slippery hospitality sector abroad, and this is her story.
Safari Njema Restaurant, Kenyan Cuisine, can I help you?
It is a routinely busy day for Jane Wanjiru Kagira.
Yeah?
When I met her, she was busy serving customers at her restaurant, Safari Njema, that she has been running for over 8 years now in Seattle City.
My restaurant is known for the perfect Kenyan food that we cook here. Our signature is the fish and the goat, and everything is cooked to order. So when you come to the Safari restaurant, you're willing to wait because you're getting like home food but cooked away from home.
Washington State is in the northwesternmost corner of the USA, miles and miles away from Kenya. Who would have thought a Kenyan would be selling African food in this part of the world?
I sell fresh tilapia. We also have ugali, matoke, mukimo, chapati, githeri, and those are the starches that we have. We have the sukuma wiki, the cabbage, the okra, and we have salad. we do a combo with our food. Like you have proteins, you have starches, and you have carbohydrates. And so we have the fish, we have the goat, we have the chicken, we have the beef, and we also have a vegetarian mix that has a lot of proteins, which include jahe, pinto beans, and that is a substitute for the protein for vegetarians.
Jen has regular clients. Others pop up just like that. And it is the word of mouth that has contributed immensely to the growth of Safari Njema.
The Wazungu come here also and they eat ugali, mukimo. I think because of the UW. UW is the University of Washington. They have 2 clinics, one in Kisumu, another one in Nairobi. And I think they bring people there and they also go there. And so many Wazungu that are familiar in Kenya with Kenyan food, they come here quite often. And they say there's none like my restaurant in this area.
To some, this is not just an eatery. It is an important meeting place.
It's not every day that I walk into a restaurant and I'm able to order matumbo, sukuma wiki, cabbage. No. So this is something different. This is special. It connects me to my motherland. Yes.
It connects you to Kenya.
Connects me to Kenya.
One may ask, how does Jen manage to get the ingredients needed to make her uniquely Kenyan cuisine?
I buy all my spices from Kenya. I go to Kenya either every other year or every year, and every time I come I have a full suitcase full of spices like the pilau mix, the majani. Sukuma wiki we buy from a wholesale store. It's frozen, but I have a way to make it, I mix with the fresh spinach. That way it's completely as fresh. Ugali we buy from a Mexican store. They have a flour called bunge. It is completely like jogo, or the fine, very fine cornmeal flour. And it's very good. When you cook it, it's just exactly like the ugali at home. In fact, some people make fun that it's even better than the ugali.
And this is what it takes to operate a restaurant here in Seattle City.
All you need is the license, the premises, and the address. That's it.
I mean, what will you be asked for? Some fee, some qualifications?
No, they don't ask you for any of that. You are only required to get a business license, a health license, an address, which means a premises where you're going to operate. And through these 2 licenses, the business license and the health license, the health officer is going to come to where you're operating to make sure that everything is in order.
When Jen first arrived in the United States back in 1990, she was a caregiver, a job that she did for about 15 years.
It's taking care of the elderly people in their homes. But I was working through an agency called McDonald Agency, which is very hard to get into. But because of the proper introduction that I was given to it when I came to this state, they were able to give me a full-time job.
So what inspired her to venture into her own business?
It's so amazing, and I needed to change career because I couldn't lift as much as, in caregiving there's a lot of lifting. And so since I was doing catering over the weekend, and people pushed me so much to open the restaurant, I didn't think it was as easy as I found when I did, but it was just a step of faith. The first step I took when I knew I wanted to open a restaurant was to go back to school for cooking here. Because as I understood, there are some, when you do catering to the locals, unless you've gone to school, they won't kind of believe that you can really cook well. So that's the first step I took. I stopped doing the caregiving and I went back to school for a year, to a school called the Cardon Bleu. And so I'm an alumni with them. And soon after that, it took me about 6 months to open this restaurant because I was prepared.
For Jen, this did not come as a by the way. She had an idea about cooking. She says back in Kenya, her mother was in the food and beverage industry and she observed her every step.
She had a restaurant in Mombasa, 2 of them actually. There was a Medica bar, Popular bar, and a Stadium bar. And then after, she bought a place in Voi, and that's what we call home. And so there was a Medica bar in Voi.
Jen, however, admits that this business has its own challenges.
Mostly challenges I face from workers. I don't know why, but we have a lot of challenges getting workers. The workers we get, they don't stay for a long time. Right now we have students who are here for summer holidays and they are ready to go back in a week's time. And so we'll be looking all over again for workers. During winter, it slowed down a little bit. Like from end of September when people go back to school, I think the weather changes, it starts getting cold. So the business starts slowing down a little bit too. In fact, I always go to Kenya in October because in between October and November, like before we jump to the holiday, is when it gets slow completely.
Since opening in 2010, Jen has seen her business grow in size as well as popularity. So how many customers does she serve in a day?
Oh God, it's hard to count. But we serve over 100 people a day. Over 100 people. And over like the weekend, Friday is our busiest day, we could go up to 300 people a day. Surprisingly, majority of my customers are Muslims. And I don't know whether it's because I bought the business from a Muslim, and so they continued coming, and therefore my goat has to be halal. And so I buy it from one of the wholesalers who is also a Muslim. I get Kenyans mostly over the weekend because they live a little distant from me, maybe like about 30 minutes drive. And so over the weekend I have a lot of them come over. I also get a lot of caterings from the churches. We have a lot of Kenyan churches, and we get a lot of catering from them.
Jina langu naitwa Mohamed Adam, nimetoka Minneapolis, Minnesota. Nimekuja kutembea hapa kidogo, nikaambiwa kuna hoteli moja nzuri hapa ya Wakenya. So nimekuja kutembea kuja kula hapa hivi.
Na wewe unatoka wapi mwenyeji?
Mwenyeji mtoka Eldoret.
Eldoret?
Yeah.
Wewe unatoka Eldoret, Kenya?
Yeah, Eldoret, Kenya. Mzaliwa huko.
Mzaliwa huko?
Yeah.
Aha.
Yeah.
Alafu kamia Marekani?
Kamia Marekani, yeah.
Jen says her inspiration for starting her business here in the US was her love for Kenya, and she shows this love in many ways other than simply serving the Kenyan cuisine.
I do have a few projects there that I build, and so I send money often, and even when I go home I go to see how they are doing.
Jen is truly living the American dream, and we conclude this show with her take on what America has taught her on our Diaspora Bite.
Amerikani imenifundisha mambo mengi. Ya kwanza ni patience, hard working. You know, those go together. Maana usipofanya kazi hapa mwenzangu utalala njaa ama utalala nje. Kwa hivyo nifundisha through hard work you can make it. Hata kama huna biashara, as long as you are willing to get out of that bed and go to work, there's always something to do.
Jen Kagira, through her African delicacy, has indeed made me feel at home during my stay here in Seattle City. Kudos to her and to our dear Daring Abroad viewers. Asanteni sana na tukutane tena next Saturday, same time. It's 7 a.m. We've met Joel along Mombasa Road. He's preparing his vehicle, he's fueling his vehicle before we depart for Gaborone in Botswana. Joel is carrying curios, sandals, shoes, and beauty products for his clients in Gaborone. As he drives off through Mombasa Road, Mlolongo, Kitengela, the next important stop is the Kenya-Namanga border. Cattle crossing the road is normal on this highway.